Chapter 4. The Garden Turning into a Camp. In the 70s, we observed the uprising of the so-called second wave of feminism. To tell the story in their own words, it goes like this. The movement, in their own estimation one of the most important ones in history ever, started with throwing tomatoes at a male speaker. These are their own words. It's not a version an anti-feminist is making up to discredit the movement. The tomatoes are still at hand, still around. Now they are called shitstorm. Any discussion with feminists can lead to a communication breakdown any time. Remember Moderata Fonte? A long-forgotten book about the superiority of women was republished in the 70s as an example of early female scholarship. There was a market for this kind of flat earth-like oversimplification that would split the world in half. Men bad, women good. In the words of Moderata Fonte, the women as the noble creatures free from evil, unlike the men, and they devote themselves to good. What happened in the 70s looked a lot like an attempt to re-establish the shady garden of Venice. We had now women-only shelter, women-only taxis, women-only parking spaces, women-only cafes, women-only bookshops, women-only libraries. And that raised a question. I regard this to be a minor breach in civilization. Books are for everyone who is interested on his own request. To claim that a library in the 70s in the Western Hemisphere would not be a safe enough space for a woman shows how far they tried to push the agenda. How far? Too far, beyond the reasonable. But if you go beyond the reasonable, you turn any initiative into a power game, into a funny limbo party raising the questions, how low can you go? But it was not funny anymore. It could not really be taken seriously, but then again, nobody would laugh about it either. It was beyond seriousness and ridiculousness. And we also witnessed the return of the greenhouse effect. I'll give you just one example. Lesbians in the Protestant church met secretly in a monastery, in a kind of secret garden, to confirm their views and heat up their emotions until they felt strong enough to join the community again and import their special worldview. Now they are not only well integrated as lesbians, they are somewhat dominant. Nobody would dare to criticize or contradict them. Lesbians do have the permission to rewrite songs, and now we have a new version of the Bible in which we are told that Jesus had female disciples, in case you didn't know. It is written in the book. Feminism is no longer a democratic movement, let alone a grassroots initiative. They soon became the establishment and now have the opportunity to misuse their power, which they frequently do. All political parties in power use the feminist vocabulary and the feminist grammar and subordinate themselves to the primitive worldview of women good, man bad. There is no feminism without sponsering. The garden in Venice, remember, flourished only because of a high standard of living and the position of the noble ladies to be able to tell their servants what they should do next to fulfill their wishes. We now have a female biotope. Women are dominating the landscape. They are here, there, and everywhere, which is quite a delight for people like me who enjoy to have them around and who want the best for them. Why not? I had a mother, I have a daughter, and among whatever I like most, women are number one on my list. Yes, I do love women, not all of them, of course, and only very, very few of them very, very much. Not all of them call themselves feminists. Actually, only a small minority of them identify as feminists anymore, but only a small minority of them ever speak up against feminism. and it looks like the silent majority is going along with every feminist dogma. That makes it easy for the activists to believe that they are speaking on behalf of all women and regard the silent masses as sleeping reserve, as actually sleeping and not awakened yet, not woke yet. Feminist activists have in relation to the artificially constructed mega group of all women like hooligans have to a football team. Everybody likes the sport and wants the team to have a successful performance. The hooligans who claim to act on behalf of the team feel free to break the written laws and the unwritten laws of social conduct as well. You might have the impression that the garden is growing and the activists want to turn the whole world into a safe space, into a garden without any wrong opinion, without a snake, without a virus, without any word about a woman that is not a compliment, without any male creature at all. But there will be no peace in this kind of garden. You always have to be alert, always ready to fight any hypothetical intruders and evildoers. You have to keep the high standards and even raise them continually. There will be a permanent fight against sexism and anything that is considered to be right-wing, in other words, to be Nazi. And that is what we are having right now and what I will be discussing in the next chapter.